What did you say just now?
Oh, shit, I got it.
Now he's on bodybuilding.
Bodybuilding is mostly mindset.
All right, Jacqueline, you want to go ahead and...
Sure. I'm Jacqueline. I competed in Las Vegas in both the bikini divisions and wellness divisions in classes D through H, whichever one was the tallest.
I'm Ilana. I first did the fashion show at the Olympia. Was my first, it's not a competition, it was my first hurrah. My first competition is actually June 1st of this year, so I am currently in prep.
I'm Majd. I competed in men's physique July of last year. I competed in true novice, and open.
All right, you were all in each different types of bodybuilding shows. What was your experience like prepping for your individual shows? Like the increase in volume, your nutrition, sacrifices, mental discipline, and all that. So we'll go with Jacqueline first.
Okay. As far as like increase, like changes in workout volume, it was definitely when I first started, I was still training in person. So the scheduling was challenging until I quit and then changed training in person. But once I started training online, obviously my schedule was a little bit more flexible. So that was, and then not just the pure volume, but my coach had me doing workouts that I was not used to doing at all. So it was not just an increase in volume, but also a different type of volume that took a lot of learning, because I was going from what I normally trained was kind of lower reps, high intensity with weight, to like all of a sudden this high rep, high number of sets type scheme that I had to really learn how to meter my intensity through the workout instead of just sending it like with the first set. So I think that was probably the biggest change initially.
Nutrition was probably like the craziest part for me. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I had it's probably not the same for like figure, but men's physique is all about conditioning, which was like down to 5%, 6% body fat. And I had to get down to that within 9 weeks, so.
Wow, your prep was short.
Yeah, it was definitely jumping in as soon, like as close as you did was.
I didn't have much time for my prep, and I had to get it done in 9 weeks, so it was, as much body fat as I can take off within 9 weeks.
What kind of deficit? Because you did macros, right?
I did, yeah.
I mean, you did like whole clean foods too.
My protein stayed the same, but 300 grams per day.
Of protein?
Of protein.
Oh my gosh.
Well, that's always my bulking or cutting. It's always 300 grams. But for carbs, it was about 60% decrease. And fats, it was down to 10 grams a day on high days.
On high days.
So there was days that I didn't get no fats.
Oh my God.
About 120 grams of fat or carbs a day, up to 150. Some days I would get up to 150. So,
yeah, that's low.
Yeah, so my training was I had no energy during my training. My cardio was, if I was on a treadmill, let's say like 11-12% increase, I was holding on to the bar the whole time.
Yeah.
Because I had no energy when it came to, to training. But same as you, like it was intense, a lot more intense when it comes to the training. High reps, up to like 20 reps.
Yeah.
I had more choice, I'd say, of like what workouts I wanted to do, but.
For me, I think my cardio did increase pretty quickly right off the bat because I was only 7 weeks out from the fashion show. But the intensity of my training pretty much stays the same throughout. It doesn't really get too crazy until you're cutting calories, and then you start to lose your drive and your motivation. But it's discipline that kept me going for sure. For my cardio for when I'm prepping or as I am now is always the stairs, and that's hard cardio. So, but diet-wise, definitely, my coach did cut things pretty quickly just because I only had 7 weeks. I did not go into a huge like lean out for the Olympia fashion show. She wouldn't let us lean out completely, so still just a mini cut, but definitely still in somewhat of a deficit. My biggest challenge, I think, with being in a deficit during that was not snacking. If you're a mom and you have kids and you have little goldfishy crackers and things of that nature and all these different foods that you're just snacking on, when my cut came around, I could not do that. So that was my biggest challenge as far as the cut right away.
Yeah. No, it's hard. Like social, being out socially was not doable.
Yeah.
Because if I saw food around them, I didn't want to see food because I didn't want to put myself in that position to try and eat something else or cheat on my diet.
The sacrifices
Yeah,
that you have to
that's
make
part
for
of the sacrifices,
It's something that I still struggle with, especially now that I'm like in improvement season. I think it's worse now. Is not seeing what I can get away with, but like actually committing to the process like 100%. So instead of like, we've kind of talked about it, like as long as you weigh the same in improvement season and your measurements don't go crazy, like who really cares what you ate during the week?
No.
But that's not going to, I think that's going to put me in the hurt locker when it's time to cut and I do need to track.
Yeah, well, also
track
like
of
your
everything.
digestion and things like that
Yeah.
as well. Like, if you're eating, which it's okay. Like that was hard for me to get myself over that mental block. Like, okay, it's okay to eat those that kind of food maybe once a week.
Yeah.
But also that's hurting your digestion too. That's
Yeah,
everything
and
that
it
you're
hurts when you're that low and then you go off and it's like,
Yeah, absolutely.
So, having specific goals before your show, how did those goals change after the experience and the knowledge that you gained from your show? So, how did they change?
I mean, I think from the judge, you get feedback from the judges, right? And you kind of go set your more specific goals based on what that feedback is. And instead of, I did have to email the head judge, I didn't stay after, but I got kind of mixed feedback because I did the 2 divisions, wellness and bikini. So it's kind of like, you need to grow some either way, but like where you grow and kind of what kind of density you pursue based on which division you go with. So it was still glutes and delts regardless, but kind of tapering my training with either bikini or wellness in mind was something I had to kind of decide really. But for the most part, it was just to grow some, but not around the waistline too much.
Well, mine wasn't a competition, but with being a novice or true novice, I guess, going into my first competition, my training specifically is glutes, hamstrings, and back and shoulders. I'm not hugely developed for my division even yet. So still being new, my goals from this point on or even up until my show is to just grow as much as I can, but we are cutting, so that's going to be a little bit difficult. But keep what I have. And we know that the feedback from the judges after the show is just going to be to grow more, which is that's always the answer. So, but it's very specific for the division that you're in. So bikini would be, glutes, hamstrings, and back and shoulders. More shoulders, not so back, but I don't have a back.
I'd say, before I did my first show, my goal was it was just to experience a bodybuilding competition, do one show and get it out the way. But after that first competition, I'd say it's a pro card. Like I'm going for the pro card at this point. But when it comes to my next prep, it's going to be either a 16-week prep or maybe something like Jacqueline did.
I did like a 10-month prep
I
total.
know, which is great. Like I wouldn't recommend anyone do a 9-week prep.
No.
It's horrible. Things I want to work on would be abs. That was the judge feedback. What else? I guess my spine is curved a certain way at the bottom, and I got to work on do more mobility work, and which I don't really focus much on. I never really focused on it, so more stretching before workouts.
I love how the goals are so specific though, like for each person, and it's a very like you are in like a competition with other people, but at the end of the day it's really just you versus you, and that all of our physiques have to be tweaked somehow or grow in some area, and it's not always the same. And you know, you have some girls or some men who are well-rounded in certain areas of their bodies but not others, and I think it's just really cool that we can all work in different ways to create the physique that the judges are looking for.
Yeah. I mean, no matter what, even if you're like, Olympia level, there's always more work.
Always more work,
There's always more work to, bring out your shoulders.
You mentioned getting a pro card, and I like to think, like, I was kind of the same way. I wanted to just see what it was like to get on stage.
No, it's almost unrealistic at like one point.
Yeah, and so now it's like, okay, well now I'm kind of committed to this process. Like, it was fun. I enjoyed it. So even if I were to not compete, I would probably still pretend like I was, maybe.
Yeah.
But I've told myself now that yes, I want a pro card, but at the same time, because bikini especially is like, it just so depends on who shows up on stage that day.
Right.
I've decided that like I want a competitive physique. So I want a pro level physique, whether or not I'm on the right stage at the right time is what I've decided is my pro card goal. Like, yes, I would love a pro card, but
My goal is just to get on stage.
you did get on stage.
Well,
I did. You walked a catwalk.
I did get as a fashion show model, which is really cool. But my biggest goal is really just to step on a competitive stage and see, what that's like. And I know our symmetry is all different, and we're all genetically blessed in different areas. And I just want the challenge. Now, as far as chasing my pro card, that is so ambitious for me right now because I'm still like, my first real competition is until June. But as far as my goals go right now, it's just to like get up there and do it and be successful in that way and challenge myself with something I never, ever, ever thought that I would ever do. So here we are.
No, I mean, getting on stage, period, was 2 years ago was not even like realistic. Like, I would have never thought of it.
Mm-hmm.
But after that, even getting a pro card, like to me right now, is almost unrealistic. But and who knows how many shows it'll take.
Right.
For me to get it. It's gonna be. It could be 5. It could be 10. It could be like 20 shows till you get it. But I'm set on it. I'm set on like doing more shows.
Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah.
How is the community for your guys's
It might be worth putting that in because that's going to lead to what would you recommend for people interested in it, which is on your question list.
That's true. Can you guys speak on what the community aspect was like, your experience with that?
Are we going?
Yeah.
Okay.
Snap.
I am very thankful that Ilana was around, and really talking to Ilana was who kind of pushed me over the edge as far as doing it. I had already hired my coach, but I was like just kind of not really committed to anything. Talking to Ilana kind of got me going, so that's good locally because it is very small locally, very small community locally. But I have all my fake friends on YouTube that
YouTube was what helped me the most.
that I bond with. I'm following all these other people on their journeys. I'm like, wow, yeah, totally same.
Especially people that were competing around the same time, though. That's who I followed.
Yeah, which is good and bad. You follow people because it's good to have them and as kind of be in the community when it's so small locally, but it is a little bit. It's like you don't want to compare, but it's nice to have them on your feed or whatever.
Yeah, I think the community here is very small. Well, when I moved here, there was nobody. I didn't even know you yet. You know what I mean? I didn't know who at the gym did any of that. I just head down, went in, did my training. Nobody knew anything because it didn't matter at the time. And then Jacqueline came around. We were chatted all the time about it. So then it was cool to kind of see her journey actually unfold before mine. and I was in this, you know, a while, and she knew that I was in this a while, and then she just jumped in, and she was on stage before I was, and that was just really cool to see that somebody push that hard that quickly and do well, and that was really cool. So there's a little community here, a tiny one, but that's okay. And as far as the community at the actual show though, was amazing. It was so nice to be surrounded by like-minded people, and in this sport can feel really alone, and you can feel really, you know, isolated and alone, and your friends don't really get it unless they're doing it and stuff like that. But the community at the actual shows is worth it. I have met so many friends, I call them friends, but so many people that are like, you could just chat with about it, and you could spend hours. We could spend hours just talking about prep things, and it's just it's a different community, but it's a nice one, and it keeps the drive there.
And thankfully, even locally, even though there's not like a lot of bodybuilding locally, like there still are a good number of athletes of whatever sort. So there's people that have their heads in some kind of game that you can kind of bond over whatever the challenge is in that way, which helps too. It does help when somebody's actually like, you know, carrying around Tupperware and skipping parties. but yeah.
That's what I wasn't very motivated, I'd say, up till the point where I got to the meetings, you know, the day before.
Oh, yeah.
And then when you meet everyone there and everyone's, you know, talking about their mentality, you know, during the show, and that's when I got really excited. And that's just when, because everyone's just so nice. One guy even did me a favor while we were at the show. I was during tanning, I didn't have the right boxers, and he gave me his.
He gave you his chonies?
Because I didn't have the right ones, and they wouldn't let me do my tan. So I mean, everyone was very, very helpful.
Yeah.
But that gave me a lot of excitement, a lot of motivation. Even something my coach said was, don't look at anyone else when you're going into the show. You know, you're not in there to compare yourself. Just enjoy yourself, and you know, don't look at anyone else but yourself. But everyone was just so helpful. Like it wasn't really. It was just there to have fun the day of the competition. It wasn't. Didn't feel as competitive as you think it would be. You know.
Yeah, my fashion show wasn't either.
Mm-hmm.
We're all there for the same reason, and again, it's yourself versus yourself at the end of the day.
Fashion show is cool because people are at different points, like in their journeys. Like on show day, everybody has worked 9 to 18 weeks on their physique to get to a similar part.
Yeah.
But the fashion show, there's a lot more, I feel like, variation in what people...
There was a lot. It was definitely a show of like all different phases of their bodybuilding careers or journeys. You have improvement season, you had girls that were in prep, you had girls that were at the end of prep that just did a show. So yeah, the different physiques were really cool to see, embracing the body that you're in regardless of the journey.
Absolutely, yeah. Because that day everything was over. You had already done all the work, and it didn't matter. It's just it's how you did, how you were on stage, pretty much is what matters.
So after my show, we went from Vegas to Hawaii for a week, and then we went to see family for Thanksgiving. So don't really recommend that as a course of action. However, I still tried to keep it within reason in Hawaii. Thankfully, I just love like fresh food, fruit and fish, so it wasn't really that bad. But adding in food, for me, it was not that big of a mental thing, because my body did respond well. Like I held my weight fine, so it wasn't, I think if I had gone crazy and like blown up, I would have a lot more of a struggle. But it was okay, it was fine, and I was able to enjoy Thanksgiving and Christmas and still be responsible like 80% of the time, and it was good. But I did feel like initially my coach like jumped my calories up aggressively, and I was like 500. He was like, well, I don't want to see you gain that weight, and I was like, 500 calories like off the bat, I don't know what you expected to happen. So we went back down and then kind of progressed up, and then I started training like psycho, so now my calories are pretty high. But we'll
take it.
Yeah,
It's
I'm not gonna be sad about it. But no weird. I also wasn't lean enough, really. So I didn't have any really big hormone issues. I didn't have any. I was just like tired because I was low on energy, but it wasn't anything. I don't think there was really anything internally that was.
Yeah, because you had gotten blood work pretty recently.
Say the biggest part is just finding balance after a show, because you have all this purpose, you know, during prep, and you have all this purpose, and you have direction, and but you have no energy during prep, so you're just you have the motivation for it, but no energy, and then after prep, you have all the energy now, and then but like no purpose, so you're just. I think finding that balance to to put it in other places in life, other things that matter other than bodybuilding was hard, because all I wanted to do was just, do cardio, and with all this energy that I have, train harder. But I think, channeling that towards other things, like everyone, your family, people who supported you, instead of putting it all into bodybuilding, was hard, and just trying to find that balance again is hard, as to get back to normal life.
Yeah.
And one thing too was I got back into, I had trouble kind of getting back into my normal diet, but eventually I would be snacking more, and that gave me all this energy, and I just went full pedal, doing cardio every morning still, pretty much doing everything that I did during prep after my competition was over.
Yeah, I didn't really, we did reverse diet out of my mini cut, just because we had to get my calories back up to go back into like an improvement season. And it wasn't hard for me, again, because I didn't get stage lean for the fashion show either. But I mean, real reverse dieting is just adding a little bit of calories back every single week until you get back up to where you need to be. And that, it wasn't necessarily hard for me, but then like he says, like you don't really have a specific goal that you're trying to hit at that point. And so the snacking is a lot easier to do. And I am 100%, like I said, a sneaky snacker. So, but as far as reversing and just adding the calories my coach had put back in was okay with me. We reversed fine out of it. And the cardio, she would drop cardio a little bit, every single week, just to get you back to the right level that you need to be. Hormonally, I wasn't stage lean either. However, having your hormones in an optimal place before you start a prep is really important. And like Jacqueline said, she got her blood work a couple weeks after her show, and all that is really important to get your hormones kind of in a good place to start either, even an improvement season or a prep. But again, my hormones were okay at that point, again, because I wasn't super stage lean, but we'll see this time around.
Something, I guess the mental block that I did have wasn't with food, but it was with the pace of progress between like prep and then improvement season. Like you can lose 1.5 pounds of fat a week. You cannot gain 1.5 pounds of muscle per week. And that's infuriating. So it's so much easier to see that progress during prep when the weight is falling off. But now it's like, I just need to grow my shoulders, and they're growing a lot slower than like, you see the progress in prep.
And everyone thinks like fat loss is the easy part, but it's not. Like, it's something that I've really learned in this process is like, losing weight can be hard, but at the same time, try to build some muscle. And that is such a slow process.
It is.
Versus fat loss.
Post, I gained after the show, I gained about 30 pounds within the first month or so, which is not healthy.
Did you drop your coach?
I did.
Right after the show?
Yeah. Well, I mean, my coach didn't really, he did, the best he can within the 9 weeks we had. But I had to trust him. I had to, listen to everything he said during the prep, but after the prep I wasn't really, you know, just because I mean in the 9 weeks that I didn't. So the main goal was conditioning. You know, size didn't matter as long as I was conditioned enough. So I did lose a lot of muscle during, you know, during that. And then right after it was, you know, I had pretty much almost like developed an eating disorder, and then like my relationship with food was way different. So
it's a slippery slope.
A positive reversing out of the show though. Freaking so much energy. I mean, like you already talked about doing the cardio and everything. It's like, wow, I have food again. I can do so much.
It's amazing what food can do for you.
Yeah, it's
and
crazy.
That's something that I just feel like people overlook. Like they don't realize that like the food actually matters. Your nutrition actually matters in whether you're doing this bodybuilding or whether you're a lifestyle client. Like food is actually like the biggest culprit to everything.
And also we mentioned blood work, and like, yes, my blood work wasn't significantly affected by my show. However, it still was not optimal. So getting that straightened out has also made a difference in the gym.
That's one thing too. My blood work wasn't fine either after the show. My thyroid was shot.
Oh, I can't even imagine.
No, it was. It took a while. My blood work from a few weeks ago was actually I'm getting better, but
takes a while.
It took a few months for it to get back into normal.
All right, what advice would you guys give? Again, we touched on a little bit in the conversation, kind of organically, but what advice would you give? Let's try to pick like a number one and maybe a secondary thing. Someone interested into going into competitive bodybuilding, regarding, you know, like a coach, like you said, expectations.
I think being prepared and I've heard this in so many like different podcasts as well, in every aspect, like make sure you understand the financial commitment, because especially as a chick, it's not small.
It's very expensive.
It's very expensive. Understanding financial, where your relationships are at, if they're gonna make it through prep, because you're not always your best when you're eating 10 grams
make sure you're in a good place.
You know, relationships, health. Like, don't try to start a prep if you're untreated for some sort of like hormone condition or like injured or whatever. Like, it's just not. It's only gonna make it worse. And then like mentally and emotionally as well, ready to go, because the discipline required can be beneficial for some sort of like disordered eating habits, but it could also set it the other way. So you definitely want to make sure you're prepared and healthy in all of those aspects before going full bore.
I think the first thing someone needs to do is hire a coach. I think whether you're looking to compete or you're looking for just a transformation, lifestyle change, or what have you, having a coach to direct that area for you, I think is so important. And I think that you need to live the lifestyle before you even decide to do a prep. Living the lifestyle of the nutrition side of it, the training side of it, I'm not even gonna call it motivation, because that doesn't last. The discipline, the consistency, all need to come before a prep is even considered. And you need to live like the athlete before actually being that athlete.
All of these things, plus, you know, finding a coach, going back to that, finding a coach that you can trust, and that you, that way, you know, you can just do what he says. You know, you don't have to think it through. You don't have to do all the thinking, because your cognitive functions are not there. Someone you can trust to make all the right decisions.
Don't think, just do.
Just do. That's where you want to be at. You want to just do.
This isn't necessarily like the number one thing, I guess, but there's so many of the like dark side of bodybuilding type videos. But what those videos, vlogs, whoever does them, they don't often say like, I guess understanding the effects of what you're asking of your coach is important so that you don't end up damaging yourself in some way. So, for example, you jump in a 9-week prep that, say, you weren't ready for it all, and then you gain 30 pounds, and like as a female, that's going to be a really hard 30 pounds to lose again. And so then you get tired of it, you get caught in a cycle, and like it's not healthy, you binge, restrict, whatever. Like, just understanding what you're at. If you're asking your coach, like if you tell your coach, I want to do what it takes, then be ready to do what it takes, and be ready for those effects. I guess is something.
Be ready for all the sacrifices as well, because you will make a lot of sacrifices when it comes to your relationships, your work.
You're gonna make sacrifices socially, mentally, physically, in your work, at your job. Like, there's gonna be a lot of, and you need to be ready for that.
A lot of people lose their jobs too during prep. It's not easy. You're not gonna be functioning as well. My hours personally, I cut them down from going from 50 hours a week down to about 15.
Yeah.
So
it's a big commitment, and it's a commitment. You're either in it or you're not.
There was no way I could have kept training the way I was at my peak in person with like 8 sessions a day. There's no way I could have done that and done a prep. There's no way I could have done a prep while I was still in the Navy. Like, I would have been physically affected and obviously couldn't fly that way. So understanding the sacrifice, or like whether or not it's feasible for you with what you do or what your priorities are, and making sure you understand that so you don't.
And I think it's good
don't
to,
set
like,
up yourself for failure.
For failure, right. And people, I get this question a lot, like, why do you need a coach? You're a personal trainer. And it's not the same.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. You having a coach, which I'm going on 3 years with mine, and you need somebody to take the guesswork out for you. If this is something that you want to do in a lifestyle that you want to live, in a sport that you want to be successful in, you need somebody to, you're looking at yourself every single day, but when you're checking in, your coach is seeing something different, and you need to trust their process, and you need to be coachable. So if they tell you to do something, you need to do it. Like, and I get it all the time. How do you do that? How do you do that? And it's like, because you just do it. That's what I'm being asked to do. That's what's on my program, and you just do it. And if you don't think you can do that, or food is too, like, it's too important and you can't sacrifice those things because the cookie's never going to be there again, then it might not be for you. But the cookie will be there.
We can revisit the cookie and improvement season.
Yes, we can revisit the cookie later.
It's fine.
So let's talk about
our next goal, or our next.
Yeah, what's coming up for you, what you're looking forward to, something like that. So let's start with what's next. What's next for you guys?
Okay. Are we going?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I am currently in improvement season, trying to gain. I am in the process of moving, but I plan to compete overseas this fall, which will be an experience. So I'm really excited about it, but I am also very nervous. So we'll see.
I am currently in prep. I am 13 weeks out from my first show, which is June 1st. After that, I don't know. Probably back into an improvement season, but Coach did mention maybe a couple shows this year, just to kind of see how my body responds, because being new to prep and watching what my body does now, every prep is different. So that's what we're doing, and see you in 13 weeks.
My show is actually 4 weeks after that.
Oh, nice.
I'll be in prep 20 weeks out, in about a month from now.
Okay.
But so coach is saying back-to-back shows, so I'll be doing 2 shows, 1 week out from each other.
Ooh.
Okay.
July 26th is
Okay.
the first show. So 20 weeks out though, which gives me plenty more time.
That's so much more comfortable.
Yeah.
Then you just have to hit that like 1.5 pounds pound per
pound
week
and a half
and
per week.
good to go.
Nothing drastic. 10% decrease in calories. So it's it's gonna be a lot easier and have fun.
Yeah,
Actually
when you don't
enjoy
like
this one a lot more.
gain a bunch of weight, like for women especially, we don't gain a bunch of weight in our improvement season. So like the team that we're on, it's very like 10% above stage weight is kind of where they like to keep us.
10 to 12.
10 to 12
6
and
months.
so then like when we enter into like a 16-week prep, it is only like 10% of your body weight loss every week for weight loss. So pretty mellow if you don't put on a bunch of weight, I guess. But
Yeah, and that's the goal. To not
so mine
have
is
some
easy right now.
ridiculous like starting prep.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah.
No, either way, I mean, it goes 1.5 if you're bulking, which is what I found out later on was 1.5 is optimally where you want to be at per week. Either if you're cutting, 1.5 down to 2 pounds down, or decreasing 2 pounds down per week is where you want to be at.
No excuses. I mean, unless you're vomiting, but there's no
Actually ill.
excuses for like the training portion of bodybuilding. Like that's what it is. Aside from your diet, like you have to be able to be committed to showing up at the gym 2 hours a day if that's what it takes, or whatever it takes. I think the training is just you have to fit it into your schedule somewhere.
That's the building part of
That's
the
the
bodybuilding.
right.
So,
Yeah, see, that's why I think if you're obsessed, it's very different from being disciplined to
Right.
do this
yeah.
daily. If you're obsessed and you enjoy doing this, and you're that's being obsessed is almost crazy. You're
Well, like
Yeah.
you relish the pain, like we've talked about. Like
Yeah.
I went to bed hungry last night.
I went to bed hungry.
yeah.
I woke up hungry this morning. It felt so good.
Yeah, and then we're like, we are so weird.
That's not
Like
okay.
we are so like this is just not normal. But that's that you're saying that's the level up. That's the difference, like versus like a competition prep lifestyle person, and then just a lifestyle. Not and you don't have to be extreme. It doesn't have to be. You don't have to be a bodybuilder to have a clean diet and a wonderful training regimen. Like, but those are the ones that are obsessed with it and just like that, and then the ones that are just want to make it a lifestyle, and both are okay.
Yeah.
And both are, but you still have to prioritize your time. And there is no, I don't have time for this.
Absolutely. The time management aspect that prep gave me was like no other. Like there's
Yeah.
that's one thing that changed after the show was time management skills that you develop from a prep is
Yeah.
Time management and being flexible also, like within like, I have to be somewhere at this time. So my training, your training time may change and you have to be okay with that. Like you still have a life. And there has to be like, I have an appointment at 12. Okay, training has to be moved 2 hours earlier or an hour earlier to be able to get it in. So your time management is like, yes, it's a huge part of like, you're not just building a body in this sport. Like you build so much more: discipline, consistency, time management. Your priorities
part of
and
time management, but setting priorities and knowing where your values are. Like maybe you think it is and you try, and your kids whatever, you like job whatever, and if that's the more important thing, it's the more important thing.
Yeah, priorities are huge. Challenging yourself when you don't want to be there is like building the best character you can possibly build. It's like the times when you don't want to show up and you do, and because it's just part of your life. When you're doing this sport, it's just kind of part of your life. Like having time in your day to go to the gym and train and prep your meals and do all. It's just kind of part of life. At this point, it's like brushing my teeth. Like it's just part of my day. You just make it part of your day. So if you want it bad enough, you can make it happen.
50 grams of oatmeal in the car to eat on my way to the gym.
Right? And speaking of, I'm hungry. you're on time crunches when you're in prep.
It's about that time.
It's about that time, I can tell.